Today I have two watches to share with you. Two completely different design watches, but both from the same brand, both from the same Aliexpress store. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches. And when this particular company reached out to me, they asked if I would like to feature this solar-powered quartz chronograph titanium watch. And as I looked at that watch, I thought, that's actually very, very cool, very, very different, not something that I've had in my collection before, and something that I think would resonate with you guys. However, when I am looking at watches that have been offered to me, I always like to go look on their website or on their store and get an understanding of what watches that they offer. And when I looked on this particular Aliexpress store, I found a bunch that grabbed my attention. Another which is completely different to that quartz chronograph that for one particular reason grabbed my attention. So I actually responded to them saying, yeah, I would like to feature that. I think I would find that interesting, but could you possibly send me this other watch too? Because I think there is an element about that watch that really stands out that I wanted to get hands-on with. And they said, yes, that's fine. And they actually sent me these two watches. That is why you would have seen that sponsored icon pop up earlier in this video. And of course, I'm going to leave a link to this specific Aliexpress store in the description of this video. So today I'm going to show you two very different style watches, but both from the same brand. So we've got two watches from this brand, Hestur. This one's got another branding on it, but it's an unbranded watch. But what I'm sort of interested to see and share with you today is just how different these watches are. This is the one that they first contacted me about and wanted me to show you guys first. So I'm going to give this probably a little bit more time than this one, but stay tuned for this one because there's something specific about it that I wanted to get hands-on with and that I wanted to show you. But for the moment, let's put that aside and let's talk about this one. This one is the Hestur Chrono Quartz. It is a solar quartz featuring a Citizen Epson VS72A solar-powered module. Now, it's a very cool box and it comes with this card and tools. There's no tools in here, there's just a card, which obviously this must be a package that they use for other watches. So let's put that aside and let's just concentrate on this watch, because when they first emailed me about it and I looked at it, I thought, oh, that is actually quite cool. It's an interesting watch. Quartz chrono, which is not always my go-to. Titanium, which is not always my go-to. But when I found out that it was that Citizen Epson sort of a solar unit, I thought, well, that's a little bit more interesting. Plus, it's got all these extra crowns and features, and overall, I think it's a good looking watch. And there's actually quite a few variations available too, in quite a few different things. Different dial colors, different case finishes. There's like a brushed, polished version plus a sandblasted version. This is the black dial variant, but I think there's also a green variant, and there's also different strap options too. So there is some different variations between each one, but all of them I think cost around about 400 Australian dollars. And what are we getting for that money? Well, we're getting quite a cool looking outdoor watch. There's an internal rotating bezel, which is quite nice. You got applied markers and the applied sort of 12, 3, 6, and 9, although the 12 and 6 are obviously being cut off. It features a date window. There's the minute counter there. That is an alarm feature. And we have a moving sub-second hand, which is quite nice to see. And of course, it is a chronograph. So when we hit the chronograph button, it does start the movement. And it is one of these little, the slow reset, which I actually quite like. If you're going to have a quartz chrono, I quite like seeing that occur. So that's quite nice. Now, I did mention it is a titanium case. So they've done actually quite well, because I actually decided I would prefer to see what their finishing differences were rather than just seeing sandblasted. So you'll see there is actually some polish there and the rest is brushed. And it's quite impressive. If I first looked at this and just sort of saw it without picking it up, I would have probably thought it was steel, because it does have some really nice effect to that brushing and polishing. But when you handle this one and hold this one, you can notice that it is fairly light. So yes, it is titanium. And it also has some very cool case angles and features. I think that's nice. I like it. I like these sort of angular cases of watches, and that's really cool. It reminds me a little bit of the Seiko Samurai, that sort of angular case. It does have a screw down crown as well. This one has, I think it is 200 meters of water resistance. Nope, 150 meters of water resistance. And I don't know why I'm turning the crown, because it is a quartz module, but if you pull it all the way out, you'll see it does have hacking as well. So whilst it's out this way, let's move the hand so we can see the actual dial a little bit better. Let's put it at a slightly weird time. Let's put it down there so it's not blocking anything else that's on the dial. Screw down crown, as you can see. Those sub-registers, I'm assuming the 12 and the 6 are the solar cells. It's not immediately obvious that that's what they are, but that's what they are. Again, nice having that little sort of second hand there. And it's nice that it is moving, and it's nice that it's not dominating the dial of this watch either. The one thing that I did notice, those two pushes, which look like they are screw down, they are just faux screw down things. That's not actually a screw down. You can just push them straight away, push it straight away, reset it straight away. I guess from a visual perspective, it probably suits because it then links in with this crown a little bit. But yeah, they're not really screw down crowns. The back has a pretty cool sort of expedition style sort of case back there. Tells you that it is titanium. Tells you that it is a sapphire crystal and a chronograph. And it's called the Hestur Climber. I guess it does have a real outdoorsy sort of feel to it with that sort of bezel in there that is rotating, as well as it being a compass bezel too. The strap is a bit of a surprise to me because it's super soft. I'm not a huge fan of rubber straps, but it certainly suits this watch, suits this design, and it's nice and soft. Hardware's pretty good too. Now we're going to try and do some measurements of this one, but because of how the case is shaped, it's probably a little bit hard to get a completely accurate measurement, so I'm going to give you a few. Across that angle there, it says 47.2, but that's not the best representation because of how it's sitting. Just directly across the actual bezel itself, which is not the entire watch, but it says 41.8, and that's kind of actually the size of the watch it does feel like on wrist. And it has a height of 13.3, a lug width of 22. There's a little bit of a taper on that strap, but not particularly obvious. But it weighs in at 103 grams. And that actually sounds like a reasonable amount for a watch that is not on a bracelet. However, with the size of it, the thickness of it, how much is going on with that, if this was a steel watch, I'd expect that to be at least 20 grams more. Now, keeping in mind, I only have a medium size 17 centimeter wrist, you'll see that it actually fits quite well. It certainly fits within the boundaries of my wrist. It sits down nicely onto wrist. This really does feel like something that is worth taking out adventuring, going hiking with, taking out camping, that kind of watch. I can see a lot of people doing their sort of outdoorsy type things, doing those adventure sort of sports with this watch, being quartz, being solar powered, having that internal rotating bezel, having that timing feature. I can see it certainly would suit a lot of people in those sorts of activities. So let's put that one aside and now go for a very different watch to what they had compared to that one there. This one I picked out for a very specific reason. Now, they say it's an iron watch, comes with the manual in there, comes with the card, but when you actually look on the website, even though it says iron watch, you can get this either branded or unbranded, branded with the Hestur logo. They just sent me one, I didn't specify which one, and this one is the unbranded version of what I'm going to say is a relatively simple looking field watch. However, this relatively simple looking field watch comes in this absolutely gorgeous, all individual linked bracelet. And this bracelet is actually why I chose this watch, because I think that's a decent and nice looking watch. I've seen it on a lot of different brands, and this one actually does represent and sort of present well. It's nice, little cathedral hands. It's a nice size, which I'll show you shortly. But I like that it has the integrated lugs, and they are all individual links, and they're quite soft to touch. They're also very small links. And then it has this butterfly clasp. Now this one, the model is RX8006, and they cost 250 Australian dollars. Now for that price, of course, you're getting the watch and this bracelet. There are a couple of options. I think this bracelet is worth sort of getting because I think it's actually a standout part of this watch, but they all have 100 meters of water resistance, sapphire crystal, and it's powered by the automatic Miyota 8215. And probably exactly what I expect from watches like this and this sort of design. Has a 38mm case. It's 11.7 millimeters high. Super compact 45.5mm lug to lug. And that cool bracelet and that lug width is 20 millimeters. Unfortunately, there's no taper on it, pretty much staying down to 20 all the way down the bottom as well. And that says 134 grams exactly, with all the links still in that. Very cool, interesting. Is it like a beads of rice engineer, I don't know, mesh bracelet? I don't know, but it's 134 grams with all the links still in it. It has a screw down crown. Let's set that to 1010 so it looks quite nice. And of course, being a Miyota automatic movement, it also does have hacking and hand winding. But I admit, the main reason I asked for this one is not so much the design of the watch. It's a good looking watch, it's a nice watch. It actually is a nice size watch, fits down nicely on wrist, but I've had a few watches that look pretty much the same as this, but none of them have come on a bracelet like this. That's particularly nice. It'd be nice actually if this fits other watches in my collection. I might just have to trial that for myself. So it's two very different watches from the same brand, and on the website there are actually lots of different variations and watches as well. It'll be an interesting one to see what else that they have, and I'm going to keep my eye on it because this one, well, this one's particularly well made and quite a surprise about how good it is. And this one, well, it has that real cool, interesting difference of a bracelet, which I like. I hope they may be reusing that on other watch models too. Thanks for watching, guys. Do appreciate it. It's been great to see a couple of different watches from a brand I hadn't seen before. Perhaps after seeing this one, you might want to watch a couple of my other videos next.